So, hello everyone. We're here with Rachel Thornton, CMO of Fivetran. I'm super excited to have you here. Obviously, we've already talked before.
Yes.
So it's amazing to meet you in person. Big Data London, amazing. So obviously a lot of buzz about Big Data London 2024, a lot of trends, a lot of things going on. So could you tell us a little bit about what you're launching at the show?
So yes, you're right, there has been a lot of buzz. We've been doing this show for 5 years, and I feel like every year it gets a little bigger. It's a great show in that it is a lot of data providers, it's a lot of data leaders, which is really nice, all coming together to talk about the latest and greatest in the industry. We've actually had 2 big sessions today. We did a session on database replication modernization that was standing room only, and then we did a customer keynote with Elsevier and Trinity of London that was also full. So really, really excited about, just how the event has gone so far. And because it is such a great sort of gathering of data leaders and who's who, we decided to launch Fivetran Hybrid Deployment. So
exciting.
I know. We have been working on this for a while. It was a lot of working with our customers, especially larger customers that have what I call, it's like a heterogeneous or a mixed IT environment.
Right.
So if you think about big customers who probably have SaaS apps, they have on-premise databases, they have cloud databases, they have on-premise data workloads. They have a lot of different needs when it comes to looking for a data workload platform or a data pipeline platform. And so hearing from them that, hey, we love Fivetran and it would be really amazing if we could get not only the best of Fivetran, all that we use you guys for, and then be able to handle our most sort of secure, compliant need workloads in terms of being able to do data replication on premise. So we have data that we don't necessarily want to leave our company or our environment. How can you guys help us also manage that? So hybrid deployment does just that. If customers need to keep information, whatever that information is, in their environment, but still want the ease of a managed service, the ease of use of a managed service, we now give you that platform and that single control plane to control all of your data workloads. So whether they're, again, moving your SaaS application data workloads or you're on premise, we can do that. And that's what hybrid deployment does.
Obviously, let's talk about AI. Everyone's talking about AI boom. We already kind of touched upon a little bit. So it obviously is transforming some industries, and there's challenges with that. They come with, certain technical challenges, but also very much a change in the industry. So what are some of the key factors to consider when integrating AI into operational needs?
Yeah. Everybody is talking about AI. I think it's sort of the topic du jour. In fact, I feel like one of our customers said that this morning in the keynote is, hey, this is something that, not only internally does everyone want to talk about it in a company, but just, you're surrounded by it in the industry. And it's very exciting and it's very interesting, but like all new technologies, there's a lot of hype around what's possible, but then there's the reality of like, okay, how do we really need to think about it as a business? How do we really need to think about it for our customers? So we hear a lot of our customers, when we're working with them, think, okay, I know I'd like to begin to incorporate AI. I'd like to be able to integrate it into my data processes, maybe building out great customer experiences, maybe building out great support agents. But all of it has to be predicated on a really strong data foundation. Because if you really want to use the data you have, again, whether it is to build a great customer experience, maybe it's to build an agent, an AI agent for support uses, or maybe even, sales usage, how do you make sure that you're building all of those things with the data you have across all of your teams, right? And so having that data foundation, that strong data foundation is critical. What we think about is, how do you think about data readiness for AI? So what are the data sources you have? Where are they? Who has access to them? How do you bring them together? How do you bring them together in a centralized location so that you can get them query ready, so that you can do, whether it's Gen AI or even something like predictive analytics, like that is still critical to so many, many businesses. And really helping customers understand, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? What are the sources you have? And what are you trying to do with the data? I think those are all the conversations we're having with customers now.
Right.
And I think that's how customers should think about it when they think about those projects.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want to go back to data security. And you talked a little bit about compliance.
Yes.
Compliance is huge. It's super important. And a lot of organizations are thinking about compliance all the time. So with GDPR, especially in the EU, other data privacy regulations kind of becoming increasingly stringent.
Yes.
Which we know that. How can companies adapt and kind of, their strategies, specifically data strategies, how can they adapt them to ensure that compliance?
Yeah. I think that the EU is especially leading the way with how they think about data compliance, data security, data sovereignty, as you mentioned, data provenance. If you look at some of the headlines recently, there's been some very well-known companies that haven't necessarily had a good handle on where is your data, where is it located, what are the rules around that data, who accesses it, and how it moves. And so I definitely think that as companies, especially in highly regulated industries, so financial services, healthcare, public sector, all of these industries that sort of have to look at, what is the data we have? What are we trying to do with it? Like, you obviously want to use this data as you build out data products, as you build out, like I said, innovation, customer experiences for your own business and for your own end customers. But you really have to understand, what are the types of data we have? Who should have access to it? How should it move around the business? And then what are the underlying compliance and security protocols that we have to adhere to, or the businesses have to adhere to? One of the customers that is using hybrid deployment was one of our early testers, if you will, is National Australia Bank, who's a good example of a financial services company. They're in a highly regulated industry. They have to be compliant. They have to make sure they're abiding by various, not only industry regulations, state, local, national regulations. So they're using hybrid as a way to say, hey, I have a bunch of customer data. This data can't leave my environment, but I still want to use it. I still want to replicate it. I still want to move it. So that is what we're helping them do in a secure way, making sure that we understand their compliance needs, and we're helping them adhere to those compliance needs. So more and more companies that really are bound by compliance, but also making sure for their customers they're adhering to compliances, they're adhering to security regulations. How are we helping them still get access to their data, move their data, use their data?
Yeah. And it's kind of like the expectation, right? When you have a certain highly regulated industries where either you push for innovation and do new things, but also it's still the compliance factor of things is still going on.
Right.
So that's kind of like what we're talking a little bit, where you guys help organizations is kind of have that, either you guys know about the compliance, you help them with compliance, but also kind of having that balancing of expectations of innovation. Mm-hmm. So how do we ensure that balance, Rachel? I
think the biggest thing is, when we sit down with customers, when we work with our customers, we're always starting with, what are the data sources you have? How is it? What do you want to do with it? What do your project plans look like? Are you using AI tools? How do you want to integrate AI tools into your data products? Even with companies that are very security conscious, and all companies should be, and I'm sure all companies are. But even with companies security conscious, even when they're looking at compliance issues, there's still an appetite to make sure they're innovating, they're using the data they have. As you said a minute ago, AI is such a hot topic, and we hear that from customers. They're like, how should we think about using AI tools? Publicly available AI tools, I think, are fascinating, fun to use, but for a lot of companies, they can't be using those tools and sharing all of their data. What we have seen a lot of, and in fact, we have a hands-on lab here at Big Data London today to talk about this. What we have seen customers really adopt is retrieval augmented generation, which is I'm using a public AI tool, but then I'm overlaying my secure data without having to share it with that public-facing AI tool. But I'm able to augment the product I get back and make it more customized for what I want to do with it. So again, when we talk to customers, it's really understanding what are you trying to do, and how easy is it for data to move within your company, and how easy is it for you to use that data? And then because we're now able to offer, like I said, a managed service hybrid on-prem options, then customers feel like, great, for whatever usage I need or whatever use case I should say that they have, we have a solution for them.
So I want to talk a little bit about hybrid deployment, get a little bit technical on it. Could you explain to us what are some of the benefits of using a locally deployed pipeline, and how does this actually enhance organizations' data security?
So when you have a locally deployed pipeline, you have the control over it, right? And it's in your environment. You control that security. And as I was mentioning, NAB, we also have a global industrial company called Powell Industries who uses that. There's healthcare companies that we're talking to. But it really allows you to look at some key data workloads and say, this can't leave my environment.
Right.
You know, for whatever reasons. Could be internal system controls. It could be, like I said, compliance, government regulations. But now with hybrid deployment, you can say, all right, I want to do replication. I want to move this data and maybe potentially share it internally without having to move to the cloud. So now there's a way to do that securely where you have the ultimate control. So again, using the control plane, the single control plane that we're offering, you can now monitor that workload, you can access that workload, that data workload, you can make sure that everything's working there, but then you also have a way to look at all of the other data pipeline workloads that you're running through Fivetran so that you can manage these holistically across your business and across your data environment.
How do we know organizations actually is hybrid deployment right for them? Right. How do we know that?
I think when we're talking to companies, and when we started, it was a lot of startups, it was a lot of digital natives. As we've grown, it's become a lot more enterprises and a lot more what I would consider like heterogeneous IT environment enterprises. So what that means is the bigger a company gets, often through things like acquisitions, they find themselves with a lot of applications, they find themselves with a lot of databases, they find themselves with a lot of different things like data lakes, cloud data warehouses, maybe an on-premise warehouse. So the more mixed that data environment is, the more mixed that IT environment is, the more customers sort of have to say, okay, do I want a million different solutions to solve these problems? Or do I really want to start to standardize on a single platform that's going to help me with, hey, I have SaaS applications that I want to get the data out of. Hey, I have events, I have files, I have on-premise databases, I have cloud-based databases. How do I get all of that? How do I get access to all these things? So I think for hybrid, it really is sort of looking at your data estate and doing like an audit, if you will, or an inventory of all of the different data sources you have. And definitely, if you have data that needs to remain on-prem, or if you just have some legacy on-prem databases that you're like, eventually we're going to migrate to the cloud with these, but for the foreseeable future, we're still dealing with these on-prem databases or these on-prem data sources. That's when hybrid is a really great option for those customers.
I mean, amazing. So thank you so much, Rachel, for being with us today. I really, really appreciate it. And of course, if you're in Big Data London, or if you're even listening to this, please go to fivetran.com and check out their hybrid deployment. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you.
So that wraps up another Don't Panic, It's Just Data podcast episode. Whether you're sipping your morning coffee or winding down after a long day, we hope this episode sparked thoughts and provoked some questions. If you have any questions or further information of what we talked about, please go to fivetran.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe on all major platforms, follow our conversations on our socials at EM360Tech on X and LinkedIn, and for further information, go to em360tech.com.